Hi, this is Miss Fati from Olympian High School. I want to teach you today. This is a video for my ninth graders about the Neolithic era. We've already studied the Paleolithic era, and so in this video, we're going to learn about the origins of agriculture, how agriculture spread, and then we'll learn about Neolithic culture and the beginnings of urban life. I'll be using two things to teach you. I'll be using the textbook from Traditions and Encounters and also PowerPoint slides, which are available on my website. So first, we need to understand that there's been a historiographical change, and historians no longer like calling this the agricultural revolution because that implies a quick, sudden change to agriculture. Instead, they prefer the term agricultural transition because it's a slower, gradual change. And basically, it's changing from Paleolithic time to having hunting and gathering economy to having a farming economy. So farming, which is the cultivation of crops and the domestication of animals. Agriculture, that's what that means. But originally, the historians made a distinction between the two time periods, not based on the kind of economic activity that they performed, but based on the types of tools they discovered from each time period. Neolithic means new stone, because of the new stone tools that they found there, versus the Paleolithic, which was the old Stone Age. So while older historians might have thought that that was the most important thing, the most important difference between the two time periods, nowadays we concentrate on the fact that there's actually a bigger, more important, significant difference, which is that our economies differ. So in this time period, we're going to see men turn towards herding animals instead of hunting them, women towards nurturing vegetation rather than foraging, which also implies that women probably invented agriculture, or at least invented taking care of crops. Okay, the earliest methods of practicing agriculture are called slash and burn techniques. Slash and burn, imagine a stand of trees, which is a bunch of trees together. Humans would cut them down and then burn them down. The nutrients in the trees would be in the soil, and then that soil would be very fertile for a few years, 2 to 3 years, but then the soil would lose its fertility. You wouldn't be able to grow crops in it anymore, and you'd have to migrate on. And that has a couple of effects. One effect is it spreads knowledge of how to practice agriculture to new lands, and the other effect is it spreads the actual crops themselves. So this tells you about that slash and burn method of practicing agriculture and how the exhaustion of soil promoted migration and the transport of crops from one region to another. Okay, in your book, you'll be able to find this in larger size, but this map that's available in your book as well shows that agriculture arose independently in these different areas throughout the world. One of the first places that it developed is in like Mesopotamia, right? People are growing wheat and barley. In different parts of the world, they're growing like maize, they're growing rice, they're growing different things. But from these original sites of origin, they're then going to diffuse. So it's not like agriculture started in one place. It started in many places throughout the world, but they were growing different crops, and then it diffused from those areas. You can read about the details of that in your book. One of the things we're going to focus on is the effects of agriculture. I'm going to give you a very basic, simple way of thinking about this that might make sense, which is to think more food means more people. And a fancy academic way of saying that is to think that the increase in agriculture or having extra food means that you have a more stable food supply, which is going to lead to demographic growth. Demographic has to do with the amount of people that there are, the population, how the population increases and decreases. So here you can see that. So this is the population in millions, and you can see that after the advent of agriculture, we start to see a very large increase in the amount of humans on Earth. Whereas they were spread thinly throughout the earth before, and now there's this prodigious increase in the amount of people in the world, a demographic increase. Okay, so there's more people. And then because of there's more people, we're going to see denser concentrations of people, so more people concentrated in a smaller area, and that's going to give rise to first villages, and then even more concentrations of peoples to towns, and then eventually to cities. We'll also see specialization of labor as another consequence. So during hunting and gathering days, it's actually less work to hunt and gather than it is to practice agriculture. So you have more leisure time when you have a hunting and gathering economy like in the Paleolithic period. But the benefit of working harder is that you have a stable food supply, more people will live. And as I mentioned, with this extra food or surplus food, not everybody's going to have to worry about finding food or producing food. So some people are going to be able to specialize in other kinds of jobs or roles. And we'll also see denser concentrations of people in villages and towns. Some of them will develop into cities. So we're going to study two specific Neolithic villages and towns. One Neolithic village called Jericho, Israel, and another one is Katahayuk in Turkey, what used to be called Anatolia. And we can tell that they had specialization of labor there because when we open up their burial sites and we study how they lived, we see that some of the houses had more things than others. Some of the burial sites, people were buried with more stuff than others. We also see a tremendous amount of different industries. So pottery, for example, jewelry, textiles, copper tools, and the development of crafts industries. So we know that there is differences of wealth in those early villages and towns.